Hello, everybody. It's Michael Hollands for Sound of the Movies. Today, I have the pleasure to be joined by Academy Award winning sound designer, sound editor, Mr. James Mather. James has worked on films such as Sherlock Holmes, Jack Ryan, Shadow Recruit, Top Gun Maverick, four Harry Potter films, House of Gucci, A Haunting in Venice, Belfast, three Mission Impossible films, including Dead Reckoning Part 1, and many, many more. It is my pleasure to welcome Mr. James Mather.
Hey, Michael, thank you very much for having me on. And it's a pleasure to talk to you. Thank you.
It's great to have you on my program. Thank you very much for taking the time out of your schedule, James. I really appreciate that. And at first, I would like to know about the creative opportunities that the world of sound design have offered you throughout your career and the many challenges you have encountered.
Well, I think that to start that answer, I would have to say that my interest in sound design was peaked as a child when humming in the bathtub and reaching a room tone that resonated the entire room. My skull shook, the water rippled. It was like Jurassic Park footstep dinosaur moment. And I realized that sound is more than just what we hear, it's also a feeling. It's also a sensation that every space accommodates. And so it became a compulsion of mine to try and find room tones, hall tones, to try and find the sounds that resonated in spaces and gave you that sense of feeling. And I started in the film industry on film, not digital, and learnt the technical and the creative processes combined. And it wasn't until much later on that I could rediscover the importance of frequencies having an effect on audiences. And I've worked on numerous different formats. I've worked at Glastonbury Festival as a sound installation designer, making fixed objects resonate with frequencies that make audiences respond, good or bad. And that was fascinating. I've worked in theatre. I've done music production. I've done video production for music videos with Massive Attack. I'm very blessed to have come from Bristol at a time when Bristol's music scene was really important and vital. And there was a lot of drum and bass, there was a lot of bass, and that meant a lot of feeling in the music. So all these experiences through my life have kind of have led me into the position that I'm in now, where I get to work with the best filmmakers in the best scenarios with the best opportunities, and we have the opportunity to explore sound while telling a story and making that sound a narrative that is vital to the process as a whole, not just a standalone element that is doing what it has to do, but it is essential to allowing the audience to feel immersed in this world that they've paid money to go and watch. This experience is for them, and so I'm always exploring how to make that a thing.
How should sound improve a film or work with the film in order to present a great cinematic experience?
Uh it should. I think that sound should follow a film or should help to make it an experience by blending and enhancing what is the most important element on the screen at that time. If you're seeing a dramatic scene with dialogue, then obviously it's very important you understand what people are saying. It's very important to know where they are, but it's not important to know that there's an airplane flying overhead that we don't see. And it's not important to know that an elephant has just fallen down a hole and is in pain because we don't see it. And it's not relevant to the story, but it's a sound you could add if you wanted to. So it's about discipline. It's about understanding when to stand up to the moment and when to sit back. And, you know, uh, the force of experience through sound and the force of um, engagement and immersion in sound is really our responsibility. We have to understand what it is that the filmmakers are trying to um, impart to the audience. What do they want? Do they want emotion with music, or do they want vitality and um, a kind of immersion and an experience with sound design? So we're always looking at how to balance all the elements that we have in a soundtrack to give the audience the most succinct storyline and at the same time the most evocative and emotional experience. Sound for me is an emotion. It can make you cry, it can make you laugh, it can make you soil yourself if you play the frequency low enough. There are sound is a waveform that vibrates through our system, and so it is our responsibility to make sure that we allocate and choose those frequencies carefully, while also making an audience feel like they are there at that moment, especially with Mission Impossible, where we have the actor who's on the screen hanging off a plane or being beaten up in an alleyway or falling off a cliff. All those experiences are real for him, and then he sits with us and he orchestrates and helps us to understand just how real it has to be, because we might be a bit timid about how loud we play a sound or how dynamic the shift might be. But his input to our resonance is vital, because it gives us the opportunity to push the boundaries way more than we might feel comfortable.
Thank you. And in terms of Mission Impossible, it is the third mission film you've worked on. Rogue Nation was the first, Fallout the second, and now Dead Reckoning Part 1. And do those films, and maybe also Top Gun, let's also add Top Gun because it's a huge film and also one of your most recent ones. Do those movies require the most modern technology available?
No, no. My feeling about technology and creativity are that one has to service the other. The most important part of what we do is about the creative input and process and the knowledge of what we need to do to attain that effect with sound. So create technology has followed. I remember being in Australia a long time ago in the 80s, and I was very lucky to be able to help out on a film called Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome, and we were working on film and magnetic stock, and they had a Fairlight synthesizer that they brought into Soundfirm where we were working. And the most exciting part about that was that we could create sounds very quickly and very spontaneously, and sometimes with a result that we didn't expect. And when I came back from Australia and I came to England, I'd been a picture assistant until then. I came back from Australia and I thought sound is traveling at a much faster speed than light. For the first time, we're now working with a technology that is fluid and liquid, and it's like mercury, whereas film is still very much carved and hewn out of film stock. So we were well ahead of the kind of avid generation, and sound design became a combination of music technology and film creativity. And so I've grown up through the digital age, and I've always thought that whatever system I've worked on, and there have been plenty, and some are like donkeys and some are like hot stallions, and you're always having to adapt to try and get what you want from the sound through that technology to make it work. And ultimately, it is your aspiration and your acceptance of what you put in and what you receive out that is what gets heard. And it's not about the technology. The technology is there as a tool. And it will keep changing. It endlessly changes. There are new plugins, there are new ideas, there are new ways of canceling noise, there are new ways of EQing, and everybody has their favorite plugin for whatever they use. But ultimately, my fixation with my editors is I don't mind what you use. I just want you to make the sound that that we know will be the right sound for this scene. Um, and so technology is a wonderful tool, but it is also could be a huge distraction because you can find yourself disappearing down the rabbit hole of sound design and not realizing that you're moving further and further away from the request, the thing. I'll jump, if I may, I'll jump to the example of the entity sound for Mission Impossible, which was a complete fluke. It was a sound of a defunct sound bar that didn't work and played the sound so none of my family could enjoy watching films on the TV, and that my job was to fix it. Dad, we can't hear what's gone on. It's gone wrong. And I heard it and thought, this is brilliant. This is like, to make this sound would take hours, if not days, to work out how to create something as original as this. And it wasn't lost on me the irony that this was technology going off piste in the same way that the entity is technology going off piste and deciding to do its own thing. In my front room, technology was doing its own thing. And so you kind of go, okay, well, I'm just going to record it. The only thing I can control is what I play through it. So I will choose what I play through it. But ultimately, what I'm recording is not in my control. It is a creative decision to choose to record it. That's it. I love this sound. I don't know what it's going to be useful for. Maybe we could use it in this film. I don't know. And so technology is with us all the time, and you have to make the most of it, but you shouldn't rely on it to do things, to do your work for you.
Dead Reckoning Part One is a big movie, and if anybody watches the end credits, they will realize how many people worked on this humongous project. And how did you work with your team, and how many hours of work were actually required to really make it across the finish line and to make sure that the film takes shape in terms of sound, in terms of editing, and also the collaboration with the composer?
So this is a unique this particular film was a unique example of COVID. We started this film before we worked on Top Gun. We then managed to work on Top Gun before we came back to finish Dead Reckoning. So this film spanned over 2 years, maybe two and a half, because it had to stop and start. And there was it was go fast, go slow, go fast, go slow. So there were times when we were very busy. We had the chase in Rome with the Fiat and the Hummer that we had to start with, and then we had to wait while they continued to shoot wherever they could and however they could before we could get to the next scene and work on it. And what we do as a team, what I like to do as a supervisor, is to ensure that everybody in the team is involved in every aspect of the sound. So traditionally, you have a dialogue editor and a Foley editor and an ADR or crowd editor and a couple of effects editors and a designer. And everybody looks after the aspects that are allocated to them. But what I find is that, and certainly in this occasion, that if people are on something for too long, it stagnates and the sharp edges become rounded and then the round edges become flat. And so what you need to do, or what I feel works really well, is that you share the sequences with everybody. So everybody has a chance to look at something and come up with an idea. And you can give the effects for the Fiat chase to the dialogue editor and say, what do you think? What do you what do you feel is missing? What do you feel is over the top? Give us your input. And then they have a say. And so there's an egalitarian process where everybody is part of the entire soundtrack, not just their specific element. And that enables an ownership which allows people to be more creative, less judgmental, less cynical or nervous or apprehensive about presenting, because they know everybody's on the same plane. So everybody's got the same investment. And it creates debate, it creates discussion, it creates observation. it creates the opportunity to allow people to discover more about their sense of what sound should be and how sound should work. And I'm fascinated by that because we all hear differently. And I know for a fact that I'll say something to one person and they'll hear it one way, and I'll say the same thing to another and they'll hear a very different thing. And it's not what we say, it's what people hear that makes the difference. And that translation can be a beautiful thing. It can be really frustrating, but there is always something about it that is beneficial. So as a team, we worked very hard. We worked in very multiple layers and multiple ways. And it gave us the chance, once we presented it to the filmmakers in the mix, the filmmakers could say, we don't want this. We don't want any glass smashing in the streets. It's too much. We don't like that sound frequency. We don't want sound to carry through the cuts. We want perspective cuts on this. We want it to be very different. And there's always another take. There's always another approach, another look at how things should be. And what I've found in the past is that if people are very protective of their work, if they feel very proud and very protective, if you ask them to change it, they are very reticent. You don't get the best from them because they're now thinking, well, I really like what we did. I think that's better. But they can't say it because it's a request from the filmmakers. So they are resilient. And as soon as somebody is resilient, they're not giving, they are holding back. And what I want is for people to give at all times. So they've gone through a process of giving all the time because somebody else has given them that. And then they've given it to them and then they've given it to them. And when a filmmaker says, lose all this, get rid of that, change this, they can do it. They understand the process of collaboration. And that for me is a very important part of it. So we worked very hard on that. It doesn't come naturally in a lot of time. It's a daily thing. It can be great one day and not the next, but it gives everybody the opportunity to feel they have the pride of their work and the understanding of their ability, not just the sounds that they're creating, but their ability to listen. And that's a vital thing in what we do, funnily enough. But there's also a part of the process which can be very, very mundane, where the picture cuts start changing dramatically towards the end of the production, and things start changing in a way that you cannot maintain the work that you've already done. So you can have a sequence that is 8 minutes long, and it's epic, and it's huge, and it's mixed, and it's great. And then it's decided that actually it doesn't, the story wise, it doesn't need to be 8 minutes long. It can be 4 minutes long and tell the same story without, over egging the pudding, as we say. And so you can't recut the tracks to fit 4 minutes. These sounds, although they're the right sounds, you need to find the best bits of them to fit in 4 minutes. So you have to start again at the last minute when you think you've done it 6 months before, 5 months before you get to release. You think you've done it, and then suddenly 2 weeks before you print master, you're at it again, rebuilding the whole thing, same ingredients, but remaking the cake. And that's a challenge. Again, you have to be able to let go. You have to be able to let go and understand that the story, the narrative, is not a long and thoughtful, beautiful vista. It's a short, very powerful, punchy 4 minutes, and that will do the same thing. And so your disciplines have to be very acute.
Did you also supervise the ADR process and also Foley?
So what we tend to do with Foley is that we have a team of Foley artists and engineers who will record, and we do it on a, right, guys, go do your thing. Here's the scene. Do what you think is right. Do what you think you would like it to sound like. Give it back to us. We will then look at it and edit it, and we'll feed back. And please understand, if we don't think it's right, we'd like you to do it again. You'll do it again. And we're very lucky that the team that we work with, Adam and Ollie and Susie, are all incredibly forgiving and also very collaborative and very creative. So they usually get it within 85, 90%. And it's the 10 or 15 that they're out by is usually down to edits that change. So yes, we are very much involved with the Foley, specifically with films that we make with Tom Cruise, because he's very, very sensitive about how Foley should play in the mix. So he doesn't like necessarily to have Foley remind us that they're walking on a marble floor. What he wants is to think what's going on in the head. He wants the audience to think about what's happening up here, not what's happening on the floor that you can't see. And I get it. I totally get it. And so in working with him and McHugh and Eddie, we've learned a shorthand about what they're going to what do we focus on first. And if they make a request for this, well, we've got it. But we're not going to spend a huge amount of time laying up all the footsteps in an airport scene when actually the only ones that matter are Benji running down, Ethan running down, Grace walking at speed. Those are the only feet that really need to matter. The rest of them, which obviously are covered, but they're not relevant. And we had that with Top Gun. It was a big note in Top Gun. I want to feel this, and every time I hear somebody walking, or every time I hear footsteps, and I'm not on their feet, I'm not feeling it. I'm being reminded that this is a technical exercise, and I'm a convert to that. I think that there's a lot to be said for the confidence of knowing you can have it, but not. If you don't need it, if it's not telling a story, if it's not giving you character, then hold back until somebody can prove to you why it's necessary. ADR, I have the most extraordinary dialogue supervisor called Simon Chase, who is supremely calm and very, very good at his job. And he's very, very good at reading a room. And for me, ADR is about reading the room. It's about knowing when you think you might get a little bit more and when you just say nothing else. Let the artist do what they do. And, there's no telling what they've had to get through to get to where they are in that room with you right there and then. There's no telling what conversation they've had with their agent about why they're having to do ADR. You don't know what's gone on in order to get them to do the ADR. But what you do know is that you're grateful that they've given you the time and you want them to understand it is only for their benefit that they get the opportunity to do this. So Simon is amazing at that. And I am very lucky that I can step back in full confidence and know that that's going to be taken care of. And he's one. I don't think anybody's ever had a problem with Simon. And I know that I've done ADR in the past, and it's not always gone that smoothly. So, like I always say, leave the work to those that know what they're doing and do it better.
Thank you. Dead Reckoning is a really big movie, and it features several standout moments and also big, set pieces. And the chase through Rome is really big. The opening of the film with the submarines is huge. The club scene, for instance, is phenomenal, not only in terms of sound, but also in terms of cinematography. And which part of the film, James, demanded the most attention?
The train demanded the most attention. All elements, all set pieces had a vast amount of time and effort and energy spent. And as I alluded to before, some of it was spent at a time when we were afforded that time, and therefore it was a fairly comfortable and it was an ergonomic process. But the train was quite late in the process, and it was hugely demanding in that we had to. Clearly, it was an epic stunt, and the thing that one forgets at the place that we're at in the process is all the effort and attention to detail and work and graft and money that has gone into creating a carriage that is hanging from a high place with people hanging inside it, cameramen, sound recordists also hanging inside a carriage to record and film the close-ups of the actors who are in that carriage. The build of the carriages and the locomotive alone was an epic um, undertaking. And so, by the time we get to it, we're just worried about whether or not the foot squashing the pepper in the kitchen scene is loud enough. But the fact is that they have built these things. People, thousands of people have been involved in this process. The thing about Mission Impossible is thousands of people have been involved all over the world. Every location has involved people building, sculpting, lighting. Um, it's a huge undertaking. And so we try not to think about that because it's too distracting and too terrifying. But the fact that the train scene was so breathless, it was about the storyline. It was the moment in the film where the storyline came to a climax, and it was it was it was about making it as real as possible. And I think running down through, I mean, we had scenes with Tom in the alley with Paris, Ethan and Paris having a fight in the alleyway. Very, very difficult to make work. Only really made work by Tom telling us that it was too clean. He wanted it to be dirty and sweaty and gritty, and by putting in production sound, it became suddenly a very, very visceral scene, and that was what he wanted. And that whole run through Venice to being a huge, mute but musical, emotional piece. With the big fights on the bridge, and you're building up, building up, building up. And as you're building up in emotion, you're taking away in reality and letting the music hold everything. It's like building a sculpture and then removing the scaffold to leave this beautiful finale of emotion. And the thing with the train was we want people to realize that they haven't had a breath for 50 seconds, 60 seconds. We want to stop people breathing in their seats. We want to make it so that people are leaning forward in their seats because it's just relentless. And so that was a challenge. That's a challenge. Also, you're talking about, if I want to be really factual about it, you're talking about people sitting in a room, long days, long weeks, listening to very loud sounds with all sorts of frequencies, trying to punctuate cuts and visuals. And it's exhausting mentally and sonically. It's very tiring. So you have to really draw deep on your ability, your stamina to understand what it is the audience is going to get from this, and not what it is as a mixer or a designer to get a breath through or to get a thing through. And Tom will come and go, I want that breath to be louder. And we're like, oh, I hadn't even thought about breaths. I was thinking about the piano that's hanging there. That's going to, the jeopardy of that is on my mind. Breaths, yes, of course, breaths, because you're so zoned in on stuff. That I'd say was the toughest part. Yeah.
Did this project require you to do field recording as well?
Yes. So we love to do field recording. It's a bit like letting kids out of school, and having a free lesson. We all have our own recording devices. We all have our own preferences of what we like to record. We usually bring recorders. We have Lloyd Dudley, who was the B unit on this film. He's now the A unit on the next film, and he's so eager to get the sounds right and get as much as he can. And we're like, yeah, thanks, Lloyd. But actually, can we go and do it? Because we know what we want to do in the edit with it. So we would go and record the Fiat, which had a Tesla motor fitted into it. It was a working car, electric Fiat with a Tesla engine. The scene where Ethan starts the car and drives into the wall was a genuine mistake. He had no idea how fast that car was going to go. He sat in there, bang, and the shop owner was thrilled. He's had his shop door demolished by Tom Cruise. He'll tell everybody forever. So what you see on the screen, we want to replicate. And we know that you can't do a lot of that by trying to, you can get a skateboard and you can remote control an electric skateboard and get it to whiz and whir and do all those things and record it in a way that is very controlled. But actually, when you go in the car and you hear the creaks and the bonks and the ranks you realize that this car has so many sounds that are characterful. So yes, we go out and field record. We've always done it on every film we've ever done. The joy about doing Mission Impossible films is that you go out to do it in really fast, expensive cars, and you get to do it on trains and vehicles, and you also get to, um, things like train whistles and stuff. You go and explore what different trains sound like, and you can do that. You can explore those sounds by trolling through a library on the internet. But the fact is, there's a sound that a train makes when it goes past, and it's a kind of phasey as the steam train goes past, and you hear it in recordings, and it's like the microphones followed it. But you go out and record it for real, or you actually the thing that happened is that we went out to record it and we missed it, and it went past us. And instead of recording it and following it, which is what we thought we should do, it just went past. And we got this wonderful Doppler steam effect. And you think, well, of course, that's what it sounds like in real life. It's not like everybody's following it with their microphone. You're standing and you're watching this thing go past, and your delayed response allows. It's only a yes. In short, we would do. I always say to everybody, I say to a lot of interns and a lot of students that come to us, try and make here's a clip from a film that we made. It's a simple clip. It's got whatever in it, whether it's animation or live action. Please take that clip and go and re-track lay and mix it, but just using source recordings that you have made. Take your iPhone, go wherever you need to go, record whatever you need to do, find things that make odd sounds that work, and become part of the creative process of listening to the world around you and understanding the sounds that you need are all there. It's just realizing that you shouldn't rely on trawling the internet to try and find these libraries. You should go and find them. They're free. They're right there, and guaranteed you'll have more fun recording your own sounds than you will trying to download something that isn't in the right format and that you then have to try and get a better version of. And then you realize it only lasts for a week and you got to pay for it. And go and get your own library. It's to any sound enthusiast, to any audiophile out there, that there is no better sound than a free sound. There is no better sound than the one that you record and you know where it came from, what happened at that time. It's like taking a photograph. You listen back to that sound and you know exactly where you were, nighttime in Kingston with a dog barking in the background. You'll use that with such pride and such joy in a film that they say, we're on an estate and it's rough. Have you got anything? Yes, I got nighttime in Kingston with a dog barking that I recorded. So yes, always record your own sounds if you can. It's so easy now with all the gadgets that we have. It's so easy.
And James, how would you describe the learning curve on Dead Reckoning?
Ah, interesting. The learning curve was there's no project is ever the same, even if it's with the same people, even if you've done four Harry Potters with the same director, same producers, same actors, same team. Same with Dead Reckoning. Same with Mission Impossible. They're all the same people. They're the same people we did Top Gun with. But every project is different. Every project is different, and it's either to do with the time frame, the the emotional expectation of other people involved that we don't know about that then trickles down to us, the the recalibrated roles and expectations of the filmmakers involved that differ from the previous films. Whether a director or writer becomes a producer, whether it's how people's roles change and how much therefore they feel in that they need to be involved in a process that changes. The there's everything. The world is a complicated place in my industry where cinema is not necessarily a foregone conclusion. It's not like everybody goes to the movies anymore. So making a film and spending a lot of money making a film is a stressful business. And that is on everybody's shoulder. It's on everybody's mind that we need this to be the best it can be. And that's tricky. Everybody's desperate to do their best work, but it doesn't always mean you will do your best work. Sometimes being nonchalant, you'll get something better. But can you convince people that your nonchalance is your best, is your A game? Not necessarily. Um, we've worked with Lorne on lots of projects, and obviously now with Tom and McHugh on four. And I think that we're all learning each other's patterns and how we respond to it. And it's not everybody's cup of tea by any stretch. Some people would much rather work on a TV series, and they'll come to the team, my team, and they'll spend some time, and then they'll say, "Ooh, ooh, this is quite intense." Um, I love it. I love it. I absolutely love the attention to detail, the need to be the best. The bar is high, and I think that's we're here to make a difference, and whatever we can do to do that, let's do it together. They're incredibly generous as filmmakers. They're very they're very supportive. We're very lucky. I think, I have to say that about everybody I work with. I feel the same way with Ken Branagh, who I work with, um, and others. And David Yates was amazing. He was incredible, generous at giving us the opportunity to be able to explore and expand on things without feeling that he had to micromanage us. Um, and I'm very grateful that we've had that opportunity and we continue to do so.
Yeah, yeah. And did you attend the spotting session with McHugh and also Lauren?
No, no, it's a very different world from the world that I exist in. The world that Lorne and the composer in any film, um, their relationship with the director is a very different language to the one that we work in. Um, and strangely, I'll talk to the composer, and the composer will say, we've been asked to do this, and we'd like to do that, and we think we're going to try this, and we're going to stick in the key of G or D or whatever. Um, but like any creative process, you kind of need to keep things a little vague and a little open in order to give yourself the room to move. And I think the problem is if you try and combine those two elements together, you have people, like I said before, it's not what you say, it's what people hear. So you have the sound designer and the composer all both thinking, oh, he means me. He means that's something I've got to do. And the composer thinking, oh, he means me. I've got to go and do. And actually, what you need to do is have your time separately so that it's just you listening and you can ask questions and gain a surety. And a composer needs to have the same thing. And also, it's very easy to say, "Oh yeah, 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 I know what you mean. I'll do that. Yeah, great, I'll do that." And then suddenly, sound design are now doing orchestral pieces with synths, not because that they didn't understand that what the director's after is a musical note as opposed to a design note, and the blur between the two should only exist on the dubbing stage when the mixers are working together.
James, apart from McHugh, Christopher McQuarrie, Lauren Balfe and also Eddie Hamilton are obviously also key players in the production. And how does the sound design, or how did the sound design on Dead Reckoning influence the music of the film and vice versa?
That's. That's quite interesting. I mean, Eddie Hamilton, if you look at a wheel, Eddie Hamilton is the hub. He's the center point that everything, all the spokes come from. And so Eddie and McHugh will work through the post production. Well, they'll work through production, obviously, from the get during filming. But when it gets to post production, they'll work together about. Wonderful thing about McHugh is that he's very clear about when he wants music to be doing the lifting and when he wants sound effects and sound design to be doing the lifting. So by the time we get a cut from Eddie, it's pretty well decided and divined who's going to be doing what. There's not going to be any music here because of this, but there will be music there because of that. And so um, we get a very, very strong indication through the cut that Eddie delivers us. And he works. So what happens is Eddie will give us a sequence. We've had one this week. We will do a sound design pass, and then Eddie will have it back, and Eddie will present it and play it from now on with the directors and producers. And then they will work around the music on that, and then he'll have music come for another scene, and they'll work around that. So he's putting it all together. He's creating, really, he's creating the sound template that we will then embellish and build on. And the balance between music and sound design is really made then. That's when those decisions are made, and that's when they can go to Lorne and say, right, we've got the demos that you did, we've cut them around to make them do this, and that. Would you orchestrate that, and would you make that your score? And they do the same with us. You've got no music here. It's all down to you. Make this car chase feel exciting.
How do you use, or how can you use silence as an advantage?
All sound is an impact. All sound is an emotion and an evocation of something that you either know, fear, long for, but it only exists with silence. Silence is the creator of all sound. Without silence, sound has no versatility, definition, size, dynamic, and silence is something we all crave and very rarely get. You can hear the blood rushing in your ears. You can hear the tinnitus ringing. You can hear the neighbors talking. You can hear the dogs barking in Kingston. You can hear planes. There's stuff all the time. You can hear the leather creaking on the chair that you're sitting on. But when you bring sound down to a point where it is singular, it is just your perception of what's around you, the kind of the minutiae, the micro of detail. It allows you to build to the biggest scale possible, either quickly or slowly. It gives you the scope to be able to create something incredible, huge, universal, vast, emotional. Um, we have used it, I would say, in two instances very successfully without being cliched in Mission Impossible. There's a scene where in Fallout where Ethan jumps out of the plane and he's struck by lightning. And at the point where he's struck by lightning, we go to digital silence. And digital silence is silence beyond all silence, is like nothing. And it's terrifying because it's a bit like it. We kept saying, if we do this, the cinemas are going to think that we've broken their speakers. They're going to think that the whole system's gone down because at least if there's a bit of air, they know, oh, okay, it's a sound thing. But if you go completely silent, they think that you've broken the speakers. So they might turn it up. God. So we did that in Fallout, and it was hugely successful because it really makes everybody suddenly, oh, okay, I'm back. It's a cold shower. And we also did it with the bike jump, but it wasn't digital silence. In this instance, we thought, well, look, everybody's seen the bike stunt. It's been on YouTube for 9 months prior to release. We all know that he's going to jump off a cliff. We have to do something with the sound to make it a new experience. And I remember we were talking to Tom, and we we were he jumps off the cliff, and the bike goes off, and they wide shot, they're falling, and we've got this sound of, like, you see him, and there's a little flutter of his shirt, and then you go wider still, and there's a very, very, very slight whine of the wind through the wheels of the bike. It's so subtle, but it's enough to make you draw into the moment. And then we cut bang hard into him skydiving down this canyon. And we were playing it, and he went, "No, guys, no, it's got to be louder." And we're like, "Okay." And we played it a bit, little, push the fader a little bit. No, 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 no. Loud. I'm telling you, it's when you're there, it's like, honestly, it's the loudest thing. Okay. So, no, guys, come on. And so the mixer just went more like that then. And he flicked the fader, and it went up a 4 or 5 dB louder than we had it. And we all just went, "Whoa, whoa, no way." That's like, and Tom was going, "Yes, yes, that's exactly what it sounds like. It's so loud." And again, like the plane, like hanging off the side of a plane. Again, we would never have gone that far had Tom not explained to us that is what it feels like. That is, I am feeling what I felt when I was falling. So, he and everybody appreciates the fact that that wouldn't have been as dramatic or as impactful had we had sound preceding it. It had to be almost silence. It had to be as quiet as we could afford to go before losing everybody. And I've said it from Tom and Jerry, from all things sound related. The pause, the beat of solitude, the beat of quietness before a moment, before a pan hits the head, or before bang, bang. It's all in the rhythm and the motion of the action and of sound, and it allows you to know where the punctuations are. It's vital. It's also quite a relief.
And the scene you also mentioned in Dead Reckoning was phenomenal. The whole build up with the motorcycle and then the whole stunt. It was one of the greatest scenes of the picture. But I must say, one of my favorite scenes of the whole film is the airport sequence when Shea Wickham is trying to find Tom Cruise, and
Yeah.
the riddle scene with Simon Pegg in the compartment.
What I've learned, the more I work with these guys, what I've learned is that they are forever paying homage to some of the old classic black and white movies of slapstick comedy, the good guys and the bad guys, and they're passing each other, and it's all, you're seeing it happen, but they're not, and you're getting this kind of, you're in on it, but but the people in the situation aren't, and that they do so well. It's brilliantly choreographed and brilliantly cut. And so they start with the choreography, and then Eddie fine tunes it and intercuts it beautifully. And we are now treading on eggshells, because the slightest push too much in one way or another, with the visual effects on the glasses or the dials turning on the bomb, if we go too far, we've blown it. We've made it into something that we know is supposed to be comedic. It's not. It's meant to be Jeopardy. And we don't want it to be funny, but we want it to be real. We want it to feel like there is a tension in the air. And then we've got the entity quality that we've got to sort of weave into this bomb that is a bomb. And so we've got lots of ingredients to play with. It's just it could be very heavy-handed, but what I love about the way that they approach these subjects, and these, specifically that scene, is with a very delicate touch. It's funny, it's Jeopardy. Don't over egg it. Don't make it too. Don't try and make it either of those. Let it be what it is. Let the performances and the characters do the work, and we'll just support them so that the audience is absolutely there with them at the time.
Is there anything else on your mind about Mission Impossible or about Tom Cruise, McHugh, anybody else on the team, or about your career in general, which we haven't been able to cover today?
I don't think so. I think that we've pretty much covered the things that are relevant. I think that I think I wish there were more young women and elder women and I wish there was more diversity in our profession. I miss the fact that we don't have that there aren't more opportunities. Um, I spend a lot of time at universities and doing courses, lecturing and trying to mentor as best I can. Um, it's we're still very much in a world where people feel it's almost it's very hard to find people who are prepared to take the jump and want to do something like post-production sound without having the security of long-term work. And we're still an industry that relies very heavily on the American support and input, and that's a great thing. um, I would say that for everybody that wants to do audio post-production, do it. Find a film you like and redo it in your sound and send it to people that you want to work with. CVs are always a good indication of somebody's um, past. But what I'm always interested in is hearing what people can do now. And I think that, if somebody takes a scene from Better Call Saul and they retrack lay it with their own ideas, the intuition and the application to do that inspires me and makes me want to meet those people. So I think that there's a lot to be done. There's a lot for. I think people need to think outside the box and allow their creativity a little bit more freedom, a little bit more expression, a little bit more um, optimism, and not worry too much about what people think of it, but just enjoy the fact you can do it and express yourself. Throughout life, we should be able to express ourselves. That's the most important thing, whatever you're doing. And I'm very lucky that I can do that in this. I don't always feel confident about it. Sometimes I'm really anxious about it, but it's always there. It's always an opportunity, and that's really important.
James, thank you for taking so much time out of your schedule. I really appreciate that. And I had a great time talking to you today, and I hope you enjoyed the conversation as well.
I did, as you can tell, because I talked for over an hour. I appreciate it, Michael. Thank you so much for your time and for listening. All right, my friend. Thank you very much indeed. Have a good evening.
You too. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Bye.